according to figures released by the Road Accident Fund, young South Africans, particularly males, have higher road injuries and fatality rates. The organization revealed this week that young people accounted for 44% of road accident compensation claims lodged between 2020 and 2022. Now, how worrying are these stats? Well, let's bring in McIntosh Polela. He's, of course, the head of corporate communications at the Road Accident Fund. McIntosh, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Very concerning. That's close to half of claims coming from young people. Talk to us about, firstly, what it was that you were looking at and how you came to these numbers.
Good morning, Naledi. Look, what we were looking for, obviously, was the impact on, one, the economy of South Africa caused by road accidents, but number two, on average, who is claiming mostly from us? And as a result of that, just to understand which age group of people is affected the most. And unfortunately, we found out that we're losing our young people at a staggering rate. I mean, now, when you count the figures, 43 billion paid over a period of 3 years on an average of 14.3 billion a year. Now, that's a staggering figure. When you think of young people, you're thinking of people that should be just starting their lives, and not people that should be losing their lives at the rate that we are losing young people.
And when we start to break those numbers down, so you talked about 43 billion for injury benefits. What happens? What do those numbers look like when we look at death-related benefits?
Well, unfortunately, they're not any better. When you look at death benefits, for instance, we paid around, say, 2.8 billion. Now, that's an average of 958 million. Each person, on average, is paid around, say, 2.5 million. Those are the ones that are injured. But it means that we're basically paying families of already dead people. Those are the beneficiaries. It means that we're paying for funeral expenses. We shouldn't be paying these amounts for burying young people. We should be trying to create jobs for young people. And again, it comes back to a simple thing. Young people are mobile, ages between 15 and 34. They get into a car, and unfortunately, they drive recklessly. Sometimes, they partake in the consuming of alcohol beverages. And what was shocking to us was the number of passengers that we lose, 35%, and the number of pedestrians, 38%. And it says that when it comes to, traffic education and road rules, young people are not paying attention. What is happening in the schools? We do have partnerships with the schools and we do talk to them, but it means that we have to do more.
Yeah, I want to just expand the data, if you will, and I don't know if you have it in front of you, but I'm quite curious, right? Where you start looking at what that data looks like with the road users older than 34, and I don't know if you were able to segment them into various age groups. So, which are then also the groups that are, I suppose, second most vulnerable after 15 to 34?
Look, obviously the groups that are most vulnerable are from 34 to around, say, 48, 50 years old. And unfortunately, we do lose those, but at a much lower rate. I mean, the rate is the gap between these rates is much smaller compared to that. What we zeroed in when we realized what the problem was obviously we zeroed our focus on young people, and we started campaigns that target specifically young people. We started going to music festivals where they go and they are told to bring a cooler box from the morning up to the midnight. And when people were surprised to see us, we took over the stage and we sent messages to ask, do you have a designated driver? Are you going to call an Uber or a taxi? Because we realize that the biggest and most staggering problem is with young people.
Yeah, and then if we compare what the data looks like where gender is concerned, I mean, this is quite stark, right? 63% of claims are registered over that period were male.
We're losing males at a staggering rate, like you were saying. With the females, it's around 34%, 34 to 36%. It's still not a figure that we need to celebrate when it comes to females, but our males are mobile. They go to shisha nyamas, they go to nightclubs, And unfortunately, they don't behave themselves. And they're going to need to change the way that they behave. Our young males, they, get jobs and they buy cars, and then they start to drive recklessly. And again, they're going to have to change their behavior.
Yeah. Can we actually just do a little bit of education, which I think is quite important, right? About once an accident, for instance, has taken place, and you can talk to us about the success rate in claims and some of the boundaries that, challenges that some people, claimants may have in accessing their claims. What do those look like? Because I think that there is certainly a culture in South Africa where even if we do it lightheartedly, we talk about, well, if there's a car accident, I'll claim from a RAF. But we need to talk about just how serious that process is, that it's not as easy as people think it is. And for the most part, you end up with quite serious injuries.
Look, unfortunately, when it comes to claims, we're not celebrating this as a successful claims. They're far from it. And when you come to claim, unfortunately, our systems are just not geared up to, paying people, as speedily as possible. We aim to pay you within 120 days. But you must remember that 90% of the claims are represented by lawyers, and it's not in their interest to pay, to get, to agree with the road accident fund within 120 days. And so on average, you find that we will pay people between, say, 2 to 4 years, because you must remember that lawyers receive legal and administrative fees, and quick and speedily, resolution of claims is just not in their interest. And that's one of the things that, we're looking at. And the education that we have, currently we are in the middle of winter, and we have the winter campaign running throughout winter where we're telling people to do simple things, to simply be visible on the roads. In the case of the pedestrians that we're losing at, at 38%, to, wear vests, where you can be seen. Young people go to work early in the morning, and unfortunately they get knocked down by cars. They come back late at night, and it gets dark early, and they get knocked by cars. And unfortunately, when it comes to, the winter campaign, we find that young mothers and children, we lose them, especially in winter, because they're escorting their children to school, and we lose the mothers and we lose the children the most in winter.
Those are tragic situations that you're describing there. And obviously, we can talk about the campaigns as much as possible, and one wonders if those actually bring about any results. But there's always the argument around police visibility, law enforcement visibility being a really better way to improve people's behavior on our roads.
Look, I'm afraid when it comes to law enforcement, how much more can we do? And you and I, Naledi, that when it comes to traffic rules, you can quite easily get away with anything on the road by paying a bribe. In some provinces, provinces like Gauteng, you can easily get away with paying a bribe. What are we going to do? Are we going to end up putting body cameras on police? It's very, very expensive. The legislating more and being harder on people, yes, but the responsibility has to start with young people. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, we've got a new Minister of Transport now. A lot of them are going to be sworn in today. I think our new Minister of Transport is Barbara Creasy. We have to do a catch-up as we look at all these ministers. Your message to our new Minister of Transport?
Look, our message to our new Minister of Transport is we're ready to welcome you. This is a very, very difficult job. We're going to have to work hand in glove to try and change the behavior of South Africans. And as far as the Road Accident Fund is concerned, we're ready to welcome the new minister. I praise her of the difficult job ahead, and we will support her in every way possible.
All right. McIntosh, Polela, an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and thank you so much for those startling, and I want to use the word sobering because I think it's an important one, right? Sobering numbers. McIntosh, Polela there, head of corporate communications with the Road Accident Fund, essentially telling us that young people between the ages of 15 to 34 account for 44% of claims lodged between 2020 and 2022. A large number of those are also deaths. So do stay safe on the roads. That's a